Item Number SCP-423 Object Class Safe Special Containment Procedures SCP-423 is contained in a 5x5 meter room containing 3 2x3 meter bookshelves. An incinerator is located adjacent. All personnel entering or leaving the room are to be searched for written material. Any written material must be checked for any trace of SCP-423 and then, if found clean, incinerated. At night, SCP-423 is to remain in a small plain journal marked 423. Failure to remain in this journal at designated times will result in a loss of reading material outside of scheduled experiments. Description: SCP-423 has no physical form. It appears to exist entirely within textual narratives. It was discovered in a used bookstore in Beep, Texas, on Beep 19 Beep, and a copy of Tom Sawyer. The book was purchased by Agent Beep, who located it during a routine search. Agent Beep brought the book back to Sector 28 as instructed. The book seemed perfectly normal except for the inclusion of a character named Fred, who is not known to exist in any other version of the story. However, it was not until it was left by a copy of Moby Dick that the anomalous nature of SCP-423 became clear. SCP-423 is able to enter textual narratives, inserting itself as a minor character. The details of the character vary from story to story, but it always named Fred, or something similar. And its role in the story is usually minor. Physical descriptions of the character are rare, but it usually appears as a human male of average height and middle years. However, this can change depending on the nature of the narrative. He has appeared as a student in narratives focusing on children, and thus presumably of an appropriate age, or even as a non-human in narratives where humans are absent or rare. In no time is his appearance remarked on as being unusual by other characters. SCP-423 is able to move from one narrative to another voluntarily, provided the two works are within 1 meter of each other. The process takes up to 3 minutes. Depending on the length of the new narrative, the entire narrative changes at once. The text on all pages seems to move. Occasionally, the length of the narrative changes. In these cases, the text grows smaller or larger to fit the page count of the book. It is only able to appear in physical textual narratives. It cannot enter electronic storage or affect purely visual narratives. If placed in proximity to a graphic novel or any other form of sequential art, it will change the text boxes and dialogue bubbles, but it will not affect the pictures. Similarly, illustrations in a textual narrative did not change, even if they no longer match up to the narratives as affected by SCP-423. It prefers fictional narratives. However, it can enter any narrative to add the characters, including anecdotes, biographies, and research notes. See Addendum 423-1. It can enter a narrative that has already exited. If it does so, the new narrative typically differs from the last time SCP-423 entered the story. However, it has displayed a preference for narratives has not yet entered. It is currently unknown what effect dying in a narrative would have on SCP-423. Despite the best effort of researchers, SCP-423 displays a strong grasp of narrative principles, and is usually able to predict the best response in a given circumstance to avoid danger to itself. It has, however, displayed minor injuries. However, these seem to vanish when it enters a new narrative. SCP-423 can be communicated with by coaxing it into a journal. In response to questions written within, with SCP-423's responses appearing underneath the questions. When it transfers to another narrative, its responses disappear from the journal. It has been largely cooperative since its containment. Its only requests so far have been for more narratives. It has expressed preferences for narratives with a large number of background characters, as this makes it easier for it to blend in and watch the good stuff. It has been recommended that, should it become uncooperative, it can be confined to the journal until it becomes more amenable to staff requests. Researchers who desire more information on SCP-423 should read Experiment Log 423-A. Addendum 423-1. Researchers are reminded that all physical written material is a potential habitat for 423, and that all notes should therefore be taken electronically. If written notes must, for some reason, be taken, be forced to check for addenda from guest researcher Fred. Addendum 423-2. The use of SCP-583 to destroy SCP-423 has been suggested. While the SCP is not slated for destruction at the present time, it has been noted should circumstances changes. Experiment Log 423-A. Experiment Log for SCP-423. Approved by 05 Beep, monitored by 05 Beep, 05 Beep, 05 Beep. Project Head, Dr. E. Mann. All researchers working with SCP-423 are encouraged to append their results to this experiment log in the following format. Date, test material, result, note. As all the dates are blanked out, so I'll just read the test materials and the results then. Test material, Tom Sawyer, by Mark Twain. Result, a character named Fred is mentioned at several points in the story, largely as an onlooker. No change to the story is noticed. Note, this will serve as a baseline for future effects of SCP-423, Dr. E. Mann. Test material, The Hobbit, by J.R.R. Tolkien. Result, a 14th dwarf named Thorador is a member of the party. The narrative is largely the same, except there are no references to a lucky number. Thorador is mentioned as surviving the Battle of Five Armies, but Owen is killed. Note, SCP-423's role is larger in this work, allowing a better look at its effects. The dialogue written for the character is similar to that written for the other dwarves. Other differences in text match Tolkien's writing style, as used in the rest of the book. Dr. E. Mann. Test material, Plain Journal. Result, there was no result for some time until one of the researchers wrote his name on the cover. The words, "Hi there," appeared underneath. A conversation was held, during which it was established that SCP-423 possessed both the ability and desire to communicate. Note, this proves that SCP-423 is sentient. If it can be controlled, it could be useful in dealing with certain text-based SCPs. This bears further research. Dr. E. Mann. Test material, Dragon Quest, by Anne McCaffrey. Result, a minor blue rider named Fred appears in the story. No other changes are noted. Test material, Harry Potter and the Half-Blooded Prince, by J.K. Rowling. Result, a wizard named Fred appeared. Very few changes in the story are noted, except one scene in which SCP-423 is confused with an existing character in the series. Note, SCP-423 displayed paranormal activities in the narrative, though nothing out of note for the fictional universe. However, when we turn to the journal, SCP-423 said that it couldn't duplicate them outside of that particular narrative universe. Dr. E. Mann. Test material, Ulysses, by James Joyce. Result, SCP-423 immediately returned to the journal, where it wrote out, "Ow, ow, bad idea." Note this as a potential punishment for SCP-423 if it misbehaves. Dr. E. Mann. Test material, The Drago Tavern, by Larry Nevine. Result, a new regular employee of the Drago Tavern showed up named Fred, only mentioned in passing save in the story Cruel and Unusual, where he expressed sympathy for the Chesterfield. Note, either he's not completely human in outlook, or only acts that way when dealing with stories of aliens. We should probably test this further. Dr. D. Vetter. Test material, The Battle Hymn of the Republic, by Julia Ward Howe. Result, verse 2, lines and 3 altered. Rather than "I have seen him in the watchfires of 100 circling camps," and "I can read his righteous sentence by the dim and flaring lamps," the lines now read, "Fred had seen him in the watchfires of 100 circling camps, and Fred can read his righteous sentence by the dim and flaring lamps." Upon returning to the journal, SCP-423 wrote, "That was interesting, but I don't think I want to try it again." Test material, Mary Had a Little Lamb, verses 1 and 2 only, by Sarah Josepha Hale. Result, References to Mary in verse 1 are now references to Freddy. References to her in verse 2 are now references to him. Test material. Mary Had a Little Lamb. Full version by Sarah Josepha Hale. Results. Verses 1 and 2 are now unaltered. A reference to the eager children in verse 4 is now a reference to Fred and the children. Test material. House of Leaves. Color version by Mark Z. Danilowski. Result. A mailman named Fred delivers a letter to Will Everton in page blank. Fred also appears as a bartender that tends Johnny, and one of the orderlies caring for Pelafina. SCP-423 expressed profound confusion after leaving this work. Of note is that all instances of Fred in the text were written in green. Test material. Gatsby. Champion of Youth by Ernest Vincent Wright. Gatsby is known for being an extended epigram. 50,110 word story written without any ease. As a result, a minor character named Ford appeared in the novel. Test material. A non-pornographic limerick about a man from Nantucket. Results. No change. SCP-423 subsequently explained that the given limerick was too small and too tight, with insufficient flexibility. Test material. A book of 365 haiku. Result. Third line of 13 separate haiku placed with a 5-syllable phrase mentioning Fred. Fred watched silently. Fred is also here. Only Fred remains, etc. Test material. The Frog Who Decided a King by Aesop. Written using plastic letters with a magnetic backing applied to a metallic surface. Result. The penultimate sentence became a big stork that soon set to work gobbling them all up, except for one named Fred who hid. The new letters appeared to be of the same material and design of the original ones, and the weight of the complete setup remained the same. Test material. Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy. Results. In the introductory scene where Holden incites a mob to murder the Reverend by falsely accusing the Reverend of rape and bestiality, a bystander named Frederick is present in the mob. However, instead of participating, the bystander leaves in disgust. The narrator comments that the weak coward Frederick was never seen again. Test material. Beep Telephone Directory, 2003. Results. No change. Test material. 12 Angry Men by Reginald Rose. Results. The list of characters specifies that the courthouse guard is named Fred. He is described as disappointed that he will be excluded from the jurors' deliberations. Test material. Mein Kampf by Adolf Hitler, German original. Result. No change for the first minute, followed by an insertion of multiple brief references to a distant, skeptical colleague named Frederick, and to autobiographical fragments of chapters 2 to 8 of book. The inserts were in German, roughly consistent with the original style, but containing a number of grammar and stylistic mistakes. Upon returning to the journal, SCP-423 remarked, "Whew, that was hard." Note: I am not sure what is more significant here, that 423 appears to possess a native tongue, or that it was apparently able to obtain very good knowledge of German from the contents of a single book, even as long as this one. We should take deeper into its possible application to translating hitherto undesirable scripts. Dr. Despair. Test material. Odyssey by Homer. English Braille Edition. Results. No change. SCP-423 left the book after 5 minutes, saying, "Interesting, but I think I'll leave this one for when I'm really bored." Test material. A hard copy of this experiment log. Results. Identical, except for the insertion of the word "luckily handsome" in several sections of the log. Test material. The Kangaromas episode by Woody Allen. A story about a man who is able to travel into fiction. Results. Testing forbidden by O5 beep. Test material. SCP-826, using SCP-423 Communication Journal as a book. Result. Testing forbidden by O5 beep. Test material. SCP-701. Result. Testing forbidden by O5 beep. Test material. A Canadian $5 bill. 2008 issue. The reverse of the bill contains 2 sentences passage from The Hockey Sweater by Rock Carrier in French and in English. Result: first sentence remained intact. Second sentence, which describes how important skating rinks were in Carrier's childhood, now mentions life on the skating rink with Fred, as well as Sir Lambertador and a big Fred. Note: the bill was first tested in the change machine and accepted as legitimate. After SCP-423 left the bill, it was tested in the same change machine and rejected as counterfeit. Test material: Green Eggs and Ham by Dr. Seuss. Results: halfway through the book, Sam I Am asks the protagonist, "Will you eat them here with Fred? Will you eat them with some bread?" Her protagonist refuses. No edited nor additional illustrations were included. Note: after returning to his journal, SCP-423 noted, "That was fun." Test material: The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien. Result: a hobbit named Frederick Burrows, noted as a friend of Samurai Scamgee, accompanies Frodo Baggins and his party throughout the book. Note: of particular note is that Owen, noted as having been killed in 423's version of The Hobbit, is mentioned as surviving in this book. Test material: SCP-140. Results: testing forbidden by 05 Beep. Note: without permission, researcher Deep, who was working with SCP-140 at the time, put the 2 books together, despite training in resisting mimetic effects. Words appeared rapidly in SCP-140's pages at a rate of roughly 1 page filled every 12 seconds, until SCP-423 returned to its journal. The words disappeared from the pages of SCP-140. SCP-423 later stated that it was extremely painful, and felt it was being ripped apart. Test material: SCP-1425. Results: testing forbidden by 05 Beep. Test material: SCP-1230. Results: pending 05 approval. Test material: SCP-1195. Results: testing forbidden by 05 Beep. Test material: a list of D-Class personnel to be terminated at the first of the month, names included. Results: the line Class D personnel to be decommissioned as of Beep, changed to D-Class personnel to be released as of Beep. All names remain as first written down. SCP-423 writes in the journal, "Now that's just heartless." Note: it is conclusive that SCP-423 has the ability to not only feel emotion, but has a belief in the importance of life. Test material: a 20-minute ballad for 8 dancers, 4 male and 4 female, described in Rudolf Lebrun's notation system for recording human movement. Result: notation states that halfway through the ballet, 5th male dancer walks on stage, looks at the other dancers, shrugs his shoulders, and walks off. Test material: a logic puzzle as published in Beep Logic Puzzle magazine, describing how 5 different people took their driving tests in 5 different vehicles on 5 different days and made 5 different errors. As is standard for logic puzzles of this sort, solvers are to determine which student drove which vehicle and made which error on which day. Result: a driving examiner named Fred is mentioned as having present during all tests. Upon subsequent questioning, SCP-423 was able to correctly state which driver made which error in which vehicle on which day. When asked how it knew this, SCP-423 did not explain the series of logical inferences, deductions, and conclusions by which puzzles are typically solved, but rather simply stated that it was right there the whole time. Test material: The Gardens of the Moon by Stephen Erickson. The result: the dramatist's persona in the start of the book now mentions Reader, a soldier in the Bridge Burners, and Fred, a dull patron of the Phoenix Inn. In the second chapter, following the fall of Pale, the Bridge Burners that arrive for Hillock, including the 5th person, who is unnamed and doesn't speak, but can either be identified as Reader, and many subsequent encounters with the Bridge Burners, the soldier Reader is also present. This character doesn't have any lines and is normally found with a book in his hand. In Chapter 5, during Cooper's dream, Cooper sees a figure within called Obi Shantytown, who, he says, greatly reminds him of his friend Fred, who he saw just the other day in the Phoenix Inn. From chapter 6 on, Fred is to be found in the Phoenix Inn. Interestingly, for the garden party on Eddie Santel's estate, both Fred and Reader are guests. Bridgeburner and all viewpoint characters alike commented how they look vaguely similar. Apart from the minor changes, the book has exactly the same ending as before though. Upon returning to the journal, SCP-423 wrote only ... when questioned. After a few minutes, it finally wrote, "Sorry, that was interesting, but exhausting." SCP-423 expressed an interest in remaining books of the series. This has been noted and will be considered as a reward for good behavior. Note, this has proven that 423 can be in multiple places within the same narrative, though it seems to tire it out. Dr. R. Kama. Test material. Candidate multilinear maps by Sanchin Grog. Published in 2013 as his doctoral thesis. Results. Approximately 10 seconds after entering, SCP-423 returned to the journal and wrote, "Sorry, not enough room for me." Note, it seems that 423 needs to have a narrative to work off. This has been noted for the future. Dr. R. Kama. Test material. A simple printout of source code for a simple Hello World program in C++. Results. Source code now has a number of additional comments alongside the source code, expressing confusion about certain aspects of the programming. On returning to the journal, SCP-423 wrote out, "Well, that was a first."